There we go. All right. Hello, everyone. Hope everyone is having an amazing day so far. And if not, you will be after this amazing webinar where you'll get all the answers to your questions answered. So you'll walk away with actionable steps to take after our amazing interview with Jill. Now, before we introduce Jill from Travel Discount Zone, I want to give a little bit of time for the people who, to log on so that no one misses her intro. So in the meantime, whoever is currently here, please go ahead and type in the chat what you'd like to learn about today, and also what you do for work full time. We're all content creators here, naturally, but oftentimes not full-timers, although we'd like to be. So I'd love to learn what fuels your travels and your lifestyle currently. Also, I know lots of you guys answered our survey that we sent out in connection with this webinar as to what you'd like to learn today. So as you're typing that in the chat, I'll just mention a few tidbits so that we can put it on our radar to discuss today, as well as, for you to know, Jill. But a few main themes that we saw from the answers that we got were how to scale your business growth, which we'll definitely be covering. What are some non-pushy marketing techniques, how to improve and maximize your affiliate earnings, which Jill is a prime example of, how to piece all the potential monetization options together as a cohesive business plan, workflows as a creator in terms of content batching, planning, posting, tracking, and kind of how you do it, Jill, and how to secure. Now, this one's the interesting one that's a little bit different. It's how to secure partnerships with brands. In particular, someone we had asked about DMOs, which stands for Destination Marketing Organizations, which oftentimes pay more than retailers, making it a quite lucrative thing to tap into. Do you have any experience with DMOs?
I actually don't, no.
Okay. So we might have to answer that specific question at a later time. But yeah, let's see who we have with us. Remember, everyone, please drop your name, your current location, or actually I just added that, your current job. All right, so we got Isabel, amazing. Oh, I didn't know you were an ER medic. So yeah, Isabel has been joining us almost every webinar now. So awesome, thanks for coming again. William, great to see you. Full-time content creator, yay, amazing. Renee, she joins us every week at our Creator Connect calls that happen generally this time. If you guys don't know about it, we meet every single week. If we don't have a webinar, Wednesdays at noon Central. So good to see you, Renee. She's a ranching and biologist. Oh, my dad's a biologist. Stacy, full-time travel blogger, freelance magazine writer, and guidebook author. I write about food, wine, travel, focusing on spiritual travel. Amazing. Welcome. Oh, Isabel's also a firefighter. There's nothing this girl doesn't do. We got Dita from St. Pete. Yep. She also joins us every week for our Creator Connect calls. Amazing content creator. And she also does social media marketing. So super duper cool. All right, as usual, we don't want to just, we don't want you to just sit in the audience, okay? The fact that you came on, are on here live, please make the most of it. Join our conversation in the chat. We love fun comments, quirky comments, but our favorite is additional questions. Please utilize, Jill is here, wealth of knowledge, please utilize her. And if your question is on topic that we're currently discussing, we will inject your specific question into the discussion. So that you leave this hour with not only your questions answered, but also, once again, actionable next steps to take and scale your business as a creator. All right, let me introduce myself really quick and then officially introduce Jill to everyone. So I'm Ling Rao. I was a full-time content creator for 7 years prior to joining Rockporch last year, and made online courses educating people how to start, grow, and scale profitable blogs specifically. I also worked with over 1,000 brands on Instagram, and now have the pleasure of sharing what I learned over the years to our Rockporch community of creators, all for free, simply because you decided to join our platform. Now, Jill joined Rockporch almost exactly a year ago, April 24th, 2024, to be exact. I looked it up, and has quickly grown income from zero to almost over $400,000 that she has made for brands that she promotes on her blog. Can you tell us, Jill, about how you made your first affiliate dollars with Rockporch and your journey as kind of how you started as a content creator?
Yeah, definitely. So for me, I really started creating content, I guess it was around 7 or 8 years ago. I love to travel. It's just, I don't know, an addiction for me. And I love creating content around it, whether it's like hotels, activities, cities. And when I started to post a lot, I had a lot of people that were reaching out to me on either like Facebook or mainly Instagram, asking, certain questions about the hotels I was staying at, or, possibly a restaurant I was eating at. And so that's kind of whenever I saw that there's a huge community out there of people that are constantly looking for information. And whenever they could see, oh, wow, you were actually staying at this hotel, or you actually went to this restaurant. A lot of people they want that kind of content so that they can determine for themselves if they actually want to go. So I created my website, which is traveldiscountszone.com, and basically just started to create reviews, create guides on places that I had personally been. And then I've of course created my my Instagram account that went along with it. I still have my own personal, but I wanted something that was more kind of in line with the business and kind of separated myself a little bit as well. And it's been going, I mean, now 7 or 8 years. And now I'm trying to travel about once a month. I'm located now in Europe, so it makes it a little bit easier to kind of hop all over the place. But yeah, that's kind of how I got started. And it started kind of slow in terms of the affiliate marketing. It took me a while to kind of get my head around it. But if I look back where I was to where I am now, I've learned so much. And when I initially started, it was really mainly organic. So now I'm really more into the mixture of organic and then supplementing that organic traffic with media buying, whether it's, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest is a new one that we're doing this year as well. So yeah, it's definitely a lot of growth in there.
Yeah, super cool. I didn't know that you were located in Europe. What part?
Croatia, actually. I've been here for almost 5 years. I was previously in Los Angeles, and we wanted a bit of a change, and my husband has Croatian citizenship, so we thought we would try it out. And I wish we did it sooner because it's definitely a culture shock, but it's so amazing just to be in a spot where you could just hop to another country with like an hour flight.
Right, definitely. Yeah, that probably has helped the business too, in addition to
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what were the key signs in your own journey that told you it was time to scale your content creation business?
For me, I was kind of actually starting to feel a little burnt out. So I needed to kind of scale in two ways. I was burnt out just by doing the organic marketing. But I was reading and learning so much about media buying. And so what I decided to do initially was hire someone to help do, for example, reels on Instagram, and set up some media buying for me. And basically what I did was I was like, I want to watch you do this along the way. And I was obviously doing my own education, nothing paid. It was all just, free videos on YouTube. There's lots of them out there. And that's kind of when I started to really get into scaling, is once I was able to start to create these campaigns and I had my, proper tracking and everything set up. That's really, I mean, the sky is the limit as long as, obviously it's converting and you're able to cover your costs. That's really how I started to scale, was through media buying.
Okay, so can you explain a little bit about media buying for those who the concept of it?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's essentially, you're going to basically a publisher. So it could be, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, could even be Google search, for example. And you're essentially paying, it's either per click or per view of your ad. And the hope is obviously that the person who views or clicks your ad will purchase eventually. That's always the goal. But that's basically media buying in a nutshell. So One thing that you do have to be very careful of is, and I made this mistake in the beginning, is jumping in really, really quickly. And when you don't really know what you're doing and you don't have proper tracking set up, you can just blow through a lot of money, especially like on Facebook and Instagram. You have to be very, very careful. You have to target properly, because it could just be a lot of money spent. And I mean, you'll learn stuff along the way, but there's cheaper ways to learn how to media buy, for example, on Facebook.
Okay, so how do you cheaper learn?
Well, like I said, for me, I actually hired somebody, I think it was on Upwork, but you could probably find someone also on Fiverr, and I kind of basically just like sat behind them and watched all the changes they were doing. So for example, I was really had to learn about the tracking and making sure that I was able to track, even if there's no purchases coming through, just the clicks, which state, for example, are the users coming from? What times are these users clicking? You don't want, for example, what I learned is there's half the time there's no need to have media buying going from midnight until, let's say, 5 a.m. because it's just rare, at least in what I was running, to have a purchase come at that time. It's usually during like the more working hours or in the evening time. So really analyzing that data and making sure that you have a pixel set up to collect all the possible data, and really just setting low budgets. I mean, you can actually like I think I started with just $5 a day for some of my campaigns. And that way, if you only have a certain amount of money to spend on the media buying, you can get quite a few impressions with that $5, while also not completely breaking the bank, right? It's like basically a coffee a day if you think about it that way.
Yeah. I mean, Starbucks is now like $7 for me, but, but neither here nor there. Yeah, super cool. Okay, so so obviously, yeah, with the media buying, are there other ways like that organically that you would recommend people kind of tap into as well?
Yeah, I mean, for me, for example, obviously for my blog, which was kind of like my baby from the beginning, is obviously doing, and you can use ChatGPT for this. I use it all the time. Is making your blog posts as SEO friendly as possible. So if somebody's searching, for example, I did, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but there's a hotel in Kenya called the Giraffe Manor. And there's not a lot of people that have reviewed it. And I went there on my honeymoon. So I created a blog for that. So something that's very, very specific that not many people are going to be looking for. And that's a great way to, hopefully if you have the right SEO elements in the blog post, you can show up, for example, on Google, Bing, and then, for Instagram and TikTok myself, I'm still learning. I'm a millennial. So to me, I'm like Instagram hardcore. TikTok is a whole other beast for me right now. But for Instagram, it's actually, I've seen a lot of success with like reaching out to other travel content creators. And you kind of just support one another. There's even groups out there, for example, on Instagram where you can be like, hey, I just posted a reel, like, can you guys go check it out? Because that kind of helps the algorithm also push you into, for example, like the explore areas of Instagram. So there's a few little tricks like that can help you organically if you're not at the stage that you want to, for example, start media buying at.
Okay. What's like some like the biggest mistakes you see when creators start to scale perhaps too early?
That's a good question. And for me, I'm going to use my personal example, was just having so much work. I mean, you almost want to you don't have to have full-time workers, because I still don't have full-time workers. I started with contractors, and that way you can control how many hours you can pay these people. But for me, it was really, I was getting, for example, brands reaching out to me via email or on Instagram. And I was so busy creating not even content, but like reels. So like I love creating the actual content on my travels, but putting those into like a reel that's, going to grab that audience's attention it took hours for me. It's not something I enjoy. I love the final product, but the actual process it took hours for me to do it on Canva. So for me, dealing with that while also having to respond to a brand in a timely manner was really kind of like, for me, the tipping point. So I kind of started reaching out to certain contractors who could, for example, create reels for me. That freed up a lot of time for me. You can even, I personally haven't done this yet, but I've met with other, content creators who have hired virtual assistants who will actually answer brands for you. And it could be a simple, yeah, we're interested in working with you. Here's a media kit and here's our requirements to work with you. So that's what I would suggest, is if you're kind of starting to get to that tipping point where, you're working more than a full-time job, it might just be time to start pulling in some contractors, even if it's just an hour or two a day. It will free up time for you to do what, you succeed at the most, which for me was absolutely not making reels. I was so excited to hire somebody to create reels for me because it was so painstakingly long for me to do them.
Right. No, definitely. Yeah. So hiring out the things that you don't enjoy. So what are the aspects that you enjoy? So you said the final product. What's your, I don't know, content creation like niche that you love?
I mean, for me, I try when I'm traveling, and even whenever I'm in Croatia, which it's my home now, but I'm always taking pictures, I'm taking videos, just because I found that over all the trips that I've done, you can never have enough. And sometimes you're creating, like, for example, a reel later on. And let's say you're doing a reel on, I don't know, top 5 things to do in Split, Croatia. You can just never have enough. And I find, like, I love Canva, but I'm not going to be able to find the same kind of content that I would take myself walking through the streets of Croatia. So for me, that was really and I really enjoyed doing it. I was good at it and I really enjoyed doing it. And I've actually really come to enjoy the media buying. But for some people, media buying might be something that you want to outsource, right? It kind of depends on what you're really good at and what takes you the longest.
Mm-hmm. No, I love that you hired somebody, but then learned what they did, and then you can implement. That's genius, actually.
I mean, it saved me a lot of time. And like I said, having somebody to overlook everything, I think it ended up saving me money in the long run, because I've met so many people who have been like, how did you make Facebook work? Like, I've spent, thousands of dollars and I got maybe like 5 sales, and I hear those horror stories. So then I kind of think, okay, well, I'm glad I had somebody, like a professional, to kind of watch over what I was doing.
Right, definitely. So what would you recommend as like the first role? I guess you kind of answered this, but like, what would you recommend as the first role to hire out when like a creator is ready to expand their team?
It's a good question. So for me, what I did was I kind of wrote down, number one, the things that took the most time, and the things that I actually enjoy doing and I'm good at. And I basically tried to look, for me, what was taking the most time that I did not at all enjoy doing and I'm not good at, which was creating these reels. And that was just, so for me, it was just an obvious, oh, this is gone. There's hours of my day back. So I think, somebody else might love making these reels for us, we tend to use Canva. So if that's something that you're good at, great. You might hate answering brands via email or Instagram. So maybe you could hire, for example, like a virtual assistant to take care of that. Or you might hate media buying. And I've met so many other content creators that also hate doing it. Because if you're not really analytical, it can get, you're in spreadsheets, it can get a little overwhelming for some people. So I think it really depends what your weaknesses are. And for me, like I said, what's really time consuming, and that kind of helps you determine where you should hire next. And like I said, just go with a contractor. There's no need to, you can set a limit for the hours. And that kind of will, if people have a budget, it will be a little bit more budget friendly that way.
Okay. So did you go through a lot of people before you kind of found your person? Because sometimes it's like hard to find somebody who's trustworthy, who like aligns
Yeah.
with you, all that. How many contractors did you go through before you found your person?
Yeah, I definitely, there wasn't a lot that was just like a one and done. And that's totally normal, I think. You kind of have to find somebody who jives with you, and who gets what you're going for in terms of, what kind of an audience you want. For me, it was a little bit of just kind of hit or miss. One thing that we kind of I jumped a little too quickly when hiring someone, which was not really creating our ideal audience member. Whether it's the ages, where they live, what they enjoy doing. Once we kind of created that profile and we were able to provide that to, for example, for me, somebody making reels, that kind of helped them to determine, oh, okay, so like if we're making a reel, for example, for, let's just say, travel zoo, it's obviously going to be somebody who's wanting a deal and then also wanting to travel for a deal. So that kind of helps these people see exactly what your goal is. And for us, I would say for most jobs that we posted, the first one might not go great, but the second one was usually the good fit. It's not like we were going through, 2 to 5 people before we found a good fit. And I mean, the great thing with like Upwork and Fiverr is you can see reviews. So you can kind of get a general idea of what these people are like at their job. And that kind of helped me a little bit. And once you do find someone, it's amazing because you kind of start to build up that rapport and you have that person that you just kind of automatically go to.
Okay. So Bill has a question. He says, he's definitely seen hit or miss on Fiverr. How much of you get what you pay for have you seen out there in terms of rates, I guess?
I mean, for me, I've never felt like, I guess, ripped off in a way. But I totally get what he's saying because I've also had, like I said, complete hit or misses. There's a few, for example, for me that I kind of alternate through depending on the style that I want. But some of them now will have actual packages, which is really, really cool. So, if you want like full blown, I think it's like subtitles and music and like just the full package of a reel, then you'll pay this. And then if you want just more of a basic, then you would just pay this. So it's kind of like depending on your budget and what you're willing to spend for example, like a reel for Instagram, you can kind of choose the package that you think you're going to get the most bang for your buck with.
Yeah, great. I want to go by a little bit about the target audience. And did you use your analytics from the media buying to create your target audience? Or did you come up with kind of like your ideal audience and then pitch it that way? Like how did you go about creating that sheet?
It's a good question. So it was kind of a mix of all. We looked at the audience we were seeing on the blog. We looked at the most, who was interacting with the ads the most that we were running. And then we also looked at our normal organic insights. And that way we were able to create kind of like a profile of our ideal member. So to me, all the data points that we had, we pulled from them as much as we could. And it's changing all the time. Sometimes the age range moves up, especially like, for example, with inflation so high, we're seeing that age range actually go up a little bit. People that, possibly retired and have a little bit more money to spend on travel. So it's kind of something that's constantly changing. And you have to kind of update it. It's been a while since we've actually done a deep dive and updated our profile. But yeah, it's definitely use all the data points that you have.
Yeah, cool. All right, Bill has another question. How do you gauge the perceived value of or quality of a Fiverr provider? What are you specifically looking for?
So for me, I've used Fiverr mainly for Instagram Reels, and the main thing that I look for is if I come across this reel, because pretty much my whole feed is just filled with travel. And when I come across a reel, what is my initial reaction to it? Is it cheesy? Is it pushy? So I try to go for as natural as possible. So if we're creating a reel, for example, on top 10 restaurants to go see or to go to in London, it's something that it's number one, providing information. And like I said, I want something that's just natural. I don't want it to be pushed in your face. The first experience I had actually hiring on Fiverr was a really just over the top, flashy, gimmicky, and it was, I mean, it will grab your attention, but for us, it really wasn't what we were looking for. So that's kind of how I would gauge it is, okay, if I come across this reel, what are my emotions to it? And how do I think that's going to kind of mirror my audience, my target audience?
Yeah, great. Okay. So what tools or systems have been like game changer for managing your content creation workflow?
I mean, obviously ChatGPT, huge, especially for, I mean, literally everything across the whole board. We even use it now, you know, if we're analyzing some data, we'll throw it into ChatGPT and be like, okay, can you give me a report on this? You know, basically in layman's terms. So ChatGPT is huge. We use Canva every single day. We kind of use the old school tools as well. You know, obviously Excel is open a lot, Google Docs, Google Sheets. And we actually use Google Data Studio for our financial reporting. So that's, again, a little bit more old school. But yeah, I think ChatGPT is, I think, more and more just going to be used for content creators. I mean, it's a game changer.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I mean, these are all free tools,
Amazing. Yeah.
available to anyone. And yeah, it's old school, but it works, right?
It
And one
works.
tool said Grok. Oh, I never heard that one. Grok. He said Grok is a beast too. So
Oh, cool.
yeah. So what's your strategy for? Well, I guess we kind of talked about that. What's like one workflow tip that has saved you the most amount of time?
That's a good question. So for me, I find that when I make a list um, for my next day, I am much more likely to be much more productive versus just waking up and just going to the computer. It's really, really simple. And there's no magic to it. It's just, okay, here's what I want to tackle tomorrow. And I find that if I just make this list before, literally just the night before my day, I'm so much more likely to get all those things done on the list versus coming to the computer. You know, you get lost in email, you might get lost in Instagram. For me, that really just helps me. Okay, here's my list, and this is exactly what I can start to pick away at.
Okay, yeah. Cool. All right, so let's change a little bit of focus to finance and money. So a little bit about what are the different revenue streams that you kind of have tapped into, and which one would you like recommend as like, you know, from like a beginner, like where would you go from like step A to C?
Yeah, so I think for me, you know, once I got my blog going and we had the Instagram account going, we obviously immediately wanted to monetize it as much as we could. So we reached out to a few partners that were giving higher rates, for example, than Google Display. So if you're going to do a Google Display unit on your website, I found them to be a little bit lower. Whereas if you go to more of like a smaller partner, they're willing to give you higher rates. And then we just started signing up with as many affiliate networks as we could. So, I mean, there's, you know, Rakuten, Awin, ShareSale, Impact, Rockporch. We work with a whole bunch of other smaller sub networks as well. Those were really the main things. And then obviously, you know, you sign up for these platforms and then you have to get approved for the brands once you've even been approved in the network, which that was one great thing about working with Rockporch is once we were approved, we had access to all those brands because it can be so time consuming to go through and apply to each of those brands. Like, for example, in Rakuten, you don't have access to any of those brands. You need to basically create this partnership and apply. And those were really the main, and that itself is going to take quite a while, obviously, to get things going. And I think for us, once we started to see better numbers on the blog and higher Instagram engagement rates, we were able to go after larger brands. So we were able to scale a little bit more, more household name brands, if you will, that have larger budgets, a larger average order value. So that really helped us kind of grow.
Yeah. No, I love that you mentioned all those platforms because, like, yeah, I mean, with Rockporch, I mean, as you know, but it's just telling everyone else, right? Like, we literally integrate with like Rakuten, Awin, CJ, ShareSale, Partnerize, Impact, like all these. And so, oftentimes, what happens is that brands will jump over to another affiliate platform, and then you have to like change all your links, and it's like this whole
Yeah.
thing. But with Rockporch, we just help you, and like, I mean, like whatever it's changing off of, your link will stay the same. And we do it
Yeah.
on the back end. So, but yeah, love that you're on all those platforms, but you don't need to be because of Rockporch.
It does make it much, much easier. And like I said, the once we got even approved, for example, on Rockporch, and then we realized, oh my God, we have access to all these brands. We don't have to apply because that takes so much time, right? You're completely at the mercy of the account manager who will hopefully see your application in there. So that is very, very time consuming, and you can skip all that with Rockporch.
Yeah, yeah. Cool. So, can you share a strategy that has helped you land higher paying brand deals or partnerships?
Yeah. So, speaking obviously of these other affiliate networks where you do have to apply for the brands, for us, what we've done a lot of the times is, obviously you can go into Awin, Rakuten, Impact, and you can apply for these brands. But one thing that we started to do, which we noticed that it really improved our, I guess you could say, approval rate, is once we've submitted the application, we'll do whatever we can because sometimes you don't always have the email of the contact person. If you can find that and kind of shoot them over, an introductory email saying, hey, we just applied in this platform. Here's our website. Here, I'm attaching our media kit. We found that it improved, like it really not only expedited the approval process, but it just increased the likelihood that we would get approved by these brands. Because half the time, especially if it's a larger brand, they're getting so many applications in on a daily basis. So if you can kind of shoot over an email explaining who you are, it's just that little personal touch that just really increases your chances of getting approved.
Okay. And have you been able to land like affiliate, but also like brand deals on top of that?
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes actually what will happen is we'll have a brand that we're working with through a partner, and what they'll end up doing is it's rare, but for example, they might be like, listen, we actually want to continue the partnership just one-on-one. And we're able to offer you more that way. Super, super rare. The other thing that I've noticed is a lot of the times if, for example, we were approved for a program in Rakuten, you're going to see like a standard base commission. And a lot of the times, if you reach out to try to establish a bit of a rapport with the account manager, you can negotiate that commission. So, for example, a lot of times I've seen them at a 2% commission, which, if the average order value is only 50, that's not really a lot. So if you can negotiate even to 4 or 5%, it's just basically going to be bringing in, more revenue to your platform overall.
Yeah. And yeah, and we do also negotiate higher rates on Rockporch as
Yes.
well for you guys. So you
Yeah.
guys don't have to do that. And then,
Yes.
yeah, but yeah, doing that yourself is killer. I love
Yeah.
that. How about content batching? So going back to like the question that, all the way from the survey at the beginning, how do you, I mean, with so many different channels and so many different things, how do you kind of, yeah, like content batch to make sure that you're producing at the rate that you would like?
That's a good question. For us, I mean, I keep kind of like an old school just calendar that I usually create in Canva. And that kind of helps me to plan out the content. And also, because obviously, let's say we'll schedule a blog post to go out on a Monday. We also want to make sure that, okay, we're posting on the biggest channel for us for social media is Instagram. So we also want to make sure that we're pushing that blog post out on our Instagram channel as well. And then sometimes what we'll do is, especially if it's a very monetizable blog post with a lot of affiliate links, we'll also do a campaign. So we'll push the blog post through on a campaign. I think we've actually done that quite a bit for REI, which is a partner we have through you guys. So for us, it's utilizing basically a calendar. There's a lot of software out there that I've tried. For me, I always just go back to my regular Canva, and sometimes I even do it by hand. I'm very old school, and it just kind of helps me see it. I can kind of plan out our week based on what I'm seeing in the calendar. And there's of course always going to be things that are kind of thrown at you. We'll have a brand message us to be like, hey, forgot to tell you, there's a Mother's Day sale going on. It's this date to this date. So you also kind of want to have a fluid calendar going, because it's never going to just be planned out for the next month and set in stone. There's going to be sales that happen, and you obviously want to let your audience know about those sales, because it does tend to increase your conversion rate whenever they're having some sales as well. So yeah, for me, old school calendar.
Love that. And so, okay, so when, just telling the audience, when Jill said campaign, it's a media buying campaign, not a brand campaign. I feel like that's a word that's
absolutely
into aspects. I want to clarify that's what you mean.
Yes, definitely.
So how do you, going back, I guess, to even before content batching, how do you decide what you even want to write about? What's the research that goes into that behind the scenes?
So there's a lot of different, I guess you could say, channels that we do research on. I'm on TikTok all the time looking at, what people are talking about for travel. I do the same on Instagram. I'll even do it on Reddit. There's a travel subreddit, and then also utilizing ChatGPT as well. So for example, I think it was last year, I noticed that Puglia, which is in the heel of Italy, for those of you who don't know, really started to gain a lot of traction on Instagram last summer. And so I started looking into it, and it's an amazing spot. I'm actually going there next month to get some more of my own organic content there. But that kind of helped us to plan out, okay, let's look at some hotels there. Let's look at some things to do, some activities, restaurants. And it's a really affordable town or area. Actually, there's multiple towns in it. And I think that's why it's gaining so much traction, is because, inflation is where it is, and a lot of people still want to travel. So if you can, go to Italy, for example, and have a nice, affordable, but amazing Italian vacation, most people are going to want to do it. So that's just one example where we kind of saw that city or that area trending. I'm trying to think of another example in the last year. For example, right now we're researching some Greek islands that are kind of coming up for me on Instagram and TikTok. So we utilize mainly social media and ChatGPT, but TikTok for me, I'm on it all the time now. It's almost a problem, but it's a great way to figure out what people are, where they're wanting to go, and where people are currently traveling and researching to go to right now.
Okay, yeah, because it's totally true. I mean, there's always I don't know, all my friends are currently going to Morocco, Portugal, and Japan. It's
Japan, it's also huge.
Huge push, right? And so learning what people are talking about, even if it's not currently, on your list, it's on everybody else's list.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, super cool. What would you say is your best tip for creators looking to build passive income while still focusing on their core content?
That's a good question, because it gets tough. You don't want to come across as, you have a blog that for example, focuses on travel, and then you just start pushing, I don't know, luxury clothing, because then it's well, there's no match here. So, I think for me, it's really just, you kind of look at that ideal audience member that we at one point created, and think, okay, well, these people are going to be into, any kind of travel. So they're going to be looking at flights. They're going to be looking at hotels, activities, possibly restaurants. But you don't want to add in something that basically has nothing to do with this person. I think that I've seen, for example, content creators or influencers, if you want to call them that, where they're pushing something and it's this seems a little outside what you would normally do. And that's a really tough line, to kind of straddle, because you don't want to come across as pushing and pushing and gimmicky like that with your audience, because I find you lose people that way. So I think as long as, for us, we always look at, okay, like for example, I love skiing, and we'd never really posted much about skiing on Travel Discount Zone before. But last year I was skiing a lot, so I started adding some more blog posts, and it was a perfect fit. We have so many people that are into, whether it's skiing or hiking, rock climbing, basically getting outdoors. So it's a good way, like there's tests you can do to see, okay, well, my audience is into this. Is this too much of a stretch? And that's kind of where you have to play that line, that, will still fit into your ideal profile. But is it going to be, completely just from left field of, okay, well, they're clearly trying to push sales for this brand. To me, I always look back at that ideal audience member and just kind of see, well, where does this brand fit into here? If it doesn't, then it doesn't. But there is ways you can kind of grow. And like I said, for me, including skiing as an outdoor sport was a huge, like I never thought to include skiing before. And then people loved it. So lots of testing that you have to do.
Right. And you have multiple channels, not just Travel Discount Zone. You have other websites that focus on other niches and stuff like that. So creating more brands to cater to different types of audience profiles. You want to tell us a little bit about your other brands that you've created?
Yeah. And actually that's literally why we created them, is we were having brands reach out to us, that wanted to work with us, but we were just like, it's a weird fit. Because like I said, we initially started with Travel Discount Zone. And if we had a brand, the first brand that had reached out to us was more of a luxury high-end clothing brand. And I'm like, well, I don't think our audience is going to go for it. And I find it a little salesy. So we ended up creating one of my other websites, Fancy Shop, which is kind of geared more towards the female audience, and kind of goes to like a higher price point for products. And so we basically created that, started from scratch and built that up just like we did for Travel Discount Zone, just a completely different target audience member. But then we were able to work with those kinds of brands that had absolutely no way to fit in with Travel Discount Zone. So there's definitely ways that you can, obviously create new blogs, or whether it's new an Instagram account or a new TikTok account to go after these brands, that will be a better fit for them. Rather than really just trying to, shove it into your own personal that it's not really fitting into.
Yeah, love that. So just add a new brand, just create a whole new website. And I dropped your Fancy Shop website so people can check it out in the chat. Awesome. So going back a little bit, I guess, to Rockporch, what has been like your most successful strategy earning through Rockporch affiliate links?
For us, I think it was really, once we got approved with you guys, we had to look through your brand roster. And it was really just looking at our own content that we had available. We wanted to kind of see, okay, well, let's see how this is going to work out. So we basically looked at what content we already had and where we could add your affiliate links, which was still work, but we didn't have to create new content for it. Sometimes I find that that's the easiest way to just kind of see how it's going to go. And then, if you see potential, which we obviously did with you guys, then it's like, okay, now we're going to actually throw into our content calendar specific pieces that are dedicated to brands that we have access to in Rockporch. And that's kind of how we normally do it. We just kind of want to see how the audience is going to react to the brand. For example, I think we started with you guys running REI, and I think we started adding them to some of the skiing, as well as our camping blog posts. And that's whenever and then we also push those through a media buy campaign. And that's whenever we saw, okay, we're getting a lot of traction here. So that we basically just scaled that out by creating specific content for REI, for example, for backcountry, and kind of built it out from there. And it worked out. We immediately saw, okay, there's definitely something here for us.
Yeah. No, you guys shot up immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you decide, or actually, I can ask that. Let's see. What's been like an unexpected opportunity or win perhaps that you've experienced through Rockporch?
I think for us that I'm gonna probably go back to something I said already, but it's really just immediately having access to brands and not having to go through the whole song and dance of applying for them. There's not many affiliate platforms like you guys. Usually, once you get approved, then you have to go through and apply to each individual brand, which, like I said, is very time consuming, and you're completely at you're just waiting, and it's kind of annoying because if you have content that you want to monetize, you're just sitting there waiting for these people to hopefully approve you. So for us, it was huge that once we got approved, we had a whole brand roster that we had immediate access to. And it makes, I think, the monetization much quicker for us and probably for you guys as well. So definitely a huge, huge win for us because we immediately were able to dive in and monetize the content with your brands.
Yeah. And I think you having a blog as well, it was game changer. I always recommend, I tell everyone, get on the blogging game because that's going to help you like scale and grow like crazy. Of course, Instagram is incredible, but I know a lot of our creators are also just on Instagram. Do you have any kind of tips from, because I know your content stems from your blog, right?
Yeah. Yes. That was kind of the base for us. And to be honest, I don't think it will ever change. I don't know if I'm old school because I do also see a lot of travel content creators now where I'm like, oh, let me check out their blog. And it's like, oh, okay, it's literally just an Instagram account, which is great. That's amazing. But for me, there's always a risk, for example, like we almost saw with TikTok in the US getting banned, that could just poof, go away. And that for me was always like, well, that's exactly why I want to have this blog, because there's no chance, at least I assume there's a very low chance that our blog will just completely disappear. And for us, we kind of built that as like the base. And then Instagram was, basically a way to drive more people to the blog. And then TikTok will eventually do the same. That's the way that we've set it up for us. And it's a little bit more stable that way.
Yes.
That is one issue with these social media platforms is you're kind of, you're under their control in a way with, for example, I've heard of content creators having their account shut down because of something that completely innocent, but their account was shut down for, let's say, a month or two while they worked through it with the tech of Instagram to get it unblocked. Mm-hmm. So when stuff like that happens, you can't monetize anything during those, whatever amount of time that it's gone for. So a blog in that way is kind of like, it's a little bit more secure and stable.
Yeah, no, I was literally just talking to one of our other creators where she had her account blocked. Because she hired somebody from overseas to help her with her account, and then it was like flagged and something, and 6 months later, to get her account back. So definitely blogging. So when did you start your email list? And was it when you started your blog, or?
It was probably about a year after that we really started to push, getting people to sign up for the newsletter. And you can do media buying to try to get people to sign up for your newsletter. It's one thing that we did as well. Because having that email list is also, it's like gold. I mean, obviously you have your blog posts that you can send out to people, but, for example, if you have a brand that reaches out to you and says, hey, listen, Mother's Day is coming up, here's a sale that we're doing. You have this email list and you can blast out to the email list, and any of those sales you're going to get commission for. And it's just, it doesn't cost a whole lot. For the media buying, like I said, you can start with just $5 a day on Facebook or Instagram, and you can, organically obviously drive it as well. But for people that are a little bit more impatient, like myself, you can kind of grow it that way as well. And that also is something that, again, can't really be taken away from you. It's kind of like the website. It's a very stable stream of income once you start to build that up.
Yeah, definitely. So what do you normally send to, like, how often do you send emails and what do you send to
them? We try to do at least twice a week. Obviously in Q4, when there's tons of things going on with obviously shopping, or, if there's, Mother's Day or, let me think, Easter, anything like that, where a brand might be having sales, then we might even do 3 a week. But we definitely try to do at least 2 a week. And, it's great. I mean, we get a lot of insights into it as well. We kind of see what people are able, through the heat maps, you can see where people are kind of looking, what they're clicking on. And that also kind of gives you a general idea of what your audience is, at least in that newsletter list, is interested in seeing. So you can always use that data for your future newsletters as well.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned heat maps. Is there what do you use for your heat maps?
You know what? I can't remember the name of the software we're using. My tech guy set it up. I just know it because of the reports that I get emailed to me.
Okay.
But I can always look it up in a little bit.
Yeah.
But I look at it all the time. It's so interesting to be able to see what people are looking at, like whenever you've created this thing and you're like, okay, well, this is where I would be drawn to. And then you kind of learn, well, no, actually, it might be something over here that these people want to see. Because, obviously, whenever you're working on your own stuff, and you're the only one looking at it, you kind of end up getting tunnel vision, right? So to kind of get all this data where you can see where these other users, these ideal users that you're going to monetize, are actually looking, you can learn so much with it.
Yeah, no, I love that you're so analytical and like data focused, because that truly is, like, at the end of the day, how you grow and scale. You have to learn, like what you said, what your audience is actually doing, not what you think they're doing.
Exactly.
And then utilizing that information to then scale, because that is what's going to help you actually grow versus just
exactly
ideas. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So going back to, I guess, the questions that from our survey, right? Let's see. So we covered, how to scale your business growth. Also, please drop, let's see, Tamika. Okay, she has to drop another call. But please drop your questions. We only have about 8 minutes left, so we don't want you leaving with any questions. So drop them right now so we can get them answered. That's the beauty of being on a live call, right?
No pressure.
Yeah. 8 minutes left. Now. But in regards to, I guess, how to piece all the potential monetization options together as a business plan, can you just give us like an overview, like, from A to Z almost, like your plan?
Yeah. So I guess I can go over the way that I grew mine. And obviously this could be different depending on anyone's situation. But like it started with the blog. Then it was the Instagram account. And then we started to collect newsletters. Emails for the newsletter. And then it started with the media buying. Basically, the way that we did it is, once we started to monetize organically, we would reinvest that money, at least some of it, into the media buying, which is kind of a good way to do it. And then, I've heard of some people who kind of rack up credit card bills doing media buying. I don't think that's the safest way to do it. You want to protect yourself a little as well, because like I said, you can burn a lot of money doing media buying on Facebook. I'm just looking at this question here.
Okay. Yeah. So Will says, sounds like blog is the nexus of sustainability. Yes, you are reading that correct.
Great question. That was just something that I did in Turkey and absolutely loved, and was like, it was such an amazing time, such an amazing company. I definitely should have that monetized. But I remember writing that blog post and I just couldn't wait to get it out, because it was such a fun time. If anybody ever ends up in Cappadocia in Turkey, you have to do it. I don't remember adding any monetizable links, or if I did, they may have expired and we took them off. But that's definitely, it should be absolutely monetized. There's actually a couple blogs in there though. Like, for example, one of the blog posts that I did on the giraffe manor in Kenya, there's no affiliate program for them. I wish there was, because I've had so many people reach out to me asking, how was it? Was it amazing? Was it worth the price? And I'm always, yes, absolutely do it. It's such a bucket list item, but I can't monetize any of that. because there is
So
no affiliate program.
wait, so you're talking about Cappadocia in Turkey, like an experience?
Yes. So I'm just looking at Stacy's
Right.
question about, yes.
I
But
wonder
then
if you can,
just speaking of, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I wonder if you can link to an experience on TripAdvisor and then
Yes,
do it that way so that they can purchase an experience through TripAdvisor with Rockporch.
definitely. 100%. Erica's going, oh, that's amazing. Yes, definitely do hot air ballooning. It's such an amazing experience. But for me, for example, for Travel Discount Zone, there was things, and I'm sure all of these content creators are going to find the same. There might be something that you want to write about because you want to tell your audience about this thing, and you can monetize it maybe in other ways. But like, for example, for the Giraffe Manor Hotel, there was absolutely no way. I guess what I did was I added in some flight links to for people flying to Kenya, but I couldn't monetize the actual hotel. And I think I've sent like at least 10 people there who have reached out to me asking, was this hotel as amazing as it sounds? So there might be some things that you can't monetize, or you have to kind of be creative with how you monetize it. But the content itself is still, for me, always so important. Like I don't want to just be, generally making lists of things that I actually haven't done. And for me, this hot air ballooning was it was such an amazing experience. But I definitely have to make a note to add in some monetizable links there, because I could probably easily be missing out on some revenue.
Yeah. No, I love that. Like that coincides really well with like Instagram, right? In the sense of like sometimes people create, conversion oriented content, and sometimes it's
Mhm.
just natural content. It's the same
Exactly.
concept with blogging. So I love that
Yes.
you're like, not every single thing has to be like that. I created it because I loved it, and that
Yeah.
gets eyeballs, right? That's like the driving traffic to your page, to then potentially monetize off of something else. Um,
Exactly. Yeah.
mhm. Yeah.
And that's so true. And I find too that whenever you're not constantly pushing to monetize your links, and somebody comes and sees my blog post, there's no links in there other than the link that is unmonetizable that goes to a hotel, for example. They do end up coming back because they've gotten such good advice on this particular hotel that they wanted advice on. So, obviously as a content creator, you want to monetize everything, but there are going to be instances where it's like, just do it because you want to do it. And that's exactly why I set up the blog, is because I loved to talk about the good and the bad, places that I've had an amazing time at, hotels I've had an amazing time at, but also places where it's like, would I do it again? No. For example, I have a trip to Puglia coming up, and there's this restaurant in a cave. And if anybody on the call has ever been, please tell me how it is. It's insanely expensive, and apparently the food is atrocious and not worth it. But the atmosphere and the environment is amazing. So I'm in the midst of this. I can't monetize this, and I really want to go. But I would love to write an honest review of, okay, as long as you know that you're basically just paying this money to just sit in an amazing cave on a cliff in Puglia. So it's a perfect example.
Yeah, I love that. Isn't that almost how it is, right? Like you're literally like, it's either ambiance or food. So you want
Yeah, you
food
can't
or
get
you
both.
want, yeah. We have one more. Okay, so what Candice? She said, can you give some tips for transitioning into monetization from a smaller creator with a dedicated followers? Just there. So basically, I'm assuming Candice, you're saying from Instagram to blogging, and also Stacy. Oh, Stacy has heard about Buglia. Wow.
Yeah. There should be more than one. Okay, I'll look into another one, because the one I've read about is, yeah, not looking good. Okay, so Candace's question. I mean, for me, what I would do is utilizing Rockporch. You can because it's true. I mean, it's going to be, I think, the quickest way for you to monetize if you're a smaller creator. Once you get approved, you have access to all the brands. And if you have a really and you don't have to have a lot of followers. If you have a group that's super, super dedicated and listens to everything that you're saying, then that's an easy way to kind of slowly introduce monetizable links. So if there's certain brands, for example, that or a certain niche that you really, really like and you want to introduce brands to, you may as well start by doing that with like a monetizable link, for example, in a story, or something like that. You could also do Linktree, which I'm not sure if people are familiar with, but we utilize that as well. It's a free tool. And, if you want to post a reel or story and you want to say link in bio, it can literally go to your Linktree where you have those monetizable links. So that's another very easy way for you to start monetizing just the smaller group of followers that you might have.
Yeah. So, and I dropped everything, the link tree, all that stuff. Candace, if you want to set up a call with me, I will literally go over everything with you, exactly how to do stuff with Rockporch, and you'll be on your way to that transition. So just wanted to thank you again, Jill, for your time and your incredible insight today. And as a reminder, this webinar is recorded, so we'll be sending it all out for y'all to rewatch again and again, because we want to just continue to glean our insight all from Jill, right? And then the final announcement is our next webinar is May 28th at noon Central. So mark that date on your calendars. We'll be interviewing a brand alongside another one of our creators, so you can tap into both perspectives. All right, we will see you guys in a month. And thank you once again for your time, Jill.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.